Was he bad, mad, or God? You choose. No sane person thinks that Jesus of Nazareth was mad. Read the Sermon on the Mount. Read his wonderful parables. No, he wasn't mad. Was he bad? Going to the cross willingly to deceive people? That's not very likely. When Chuck Colson, who was President Nixon's hatchet man, read C.S. Lewis on this subject, he decided that Christ was God the Son who'd come down to die for our sins. As a result, prisoners in over 100 countries became Christians because of the organisation that Chuck Colson founded after he read C.S. Lewis on the deity of Christ. May I remind you of some of his apparently fantastic claims. Before Abraham was, I am. That's the Old Testament name for God, the I am. He spoke about the glory he had with God before the world was. He claimed to be the judge of the whole world, and he said he could forgive sins. He said all the angels were his. Nature was under his control. We should love him more than our sons and daughters. What claims? Sad, mad, bad, or God? There's really only one possibility. This is the man who said, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words will never pass away. This is a man who, when a prostitute anointed his feet, he said, this, that this woman has done, will be told of in the whole world. Jewish carpenter's son, living in an obscure corner of the world, but he knew that his gospel would go to all the world. But there's something even more important, and many people haven't noticed it. But the revelation that Jesus gave of God will break your heart if you let it, and make you a new person, and guarantee your resurrection at the end of the world. What did Jesus teach about God? Well, if you read Luke chapter 12 and verse 6, he says the sparrows are sold at the rate of 5 of them for 2 cents. Then Jesus said, not one of them is forgotten before God. What a picture of God. Not one sparrow. There are millions upon millions of sparrows. We pay no attention to them, but not one of them is forgotten before God. What a God is that? Jesus said he's kind to the evil and to the ungrateful. Well, that's me. I've got a chance. Indeed, it's a certainty if I believe in Jesus, because God is kind to the evil and to the ungrateful. He makes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He sends his rain on the just and the unjust. What a God is he. Jesus told wonderful stories when the Pharisees accused him of making friends with wicked people. Jesus said, true, let me tell you why. And he told the stories about the lost sheep and the lost coin and the lost boy. He told about the good shepherd, ready to go to the ends of the earth to find the cowering, troubled, huddled sheep. He said, God is like that. And whosoever will may come, and whoever comes to me, I'll in no wise cast out, because you don't have to be good to be saved. You do have to be saved to be good. And by coming to him, and believing in what he's done. It's counted as though we did it. It says that, you know. In 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 14, the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge, if one died for all, then all died. Our Lord wasn't just our substitute. He was that. He took our place. We deserve death. We've all been selfish. We've all been impure. We've all told lies. We deserve death. So he was our substitute. He took our place. But here in this verse, 2 Corinthians 5:14, he is our representative. What's the difference between a substitute and a representative? A representative is counted as doing what all those he represents are doing. So in the reckoning of God, you and I died on Calvary in our representative. We've died for our sins of the past, more numerous than the hairs of our head, said David. We've died for the sins of the present. Even when we're converted, we make many mistakes, many blues, many blunders, many sins. He died for our sins of the future. We are accepted in the Beloved. We are complete in him if we trust him with all our hearts and our minds. What a wonderful picture of God he gave. The Good Shepherd who'll go to the ends of the earth for one feeble lamb. But I like best of all what he said in his judgment parable of the sheep and the goats. And he made destiny depend not on being a theologian, not on praying all night every night, not on doing all sorts of religious things. He said, if you fed the hungry, given water to the thirsty, clothed the naked, welcomed the stranger into your home, covered the naked, visited the sick, gone to prison for those that are there. In other words, Christ saw himself in every troubled person. Christ recognized himself in every human being experiencing pain. And he says, whatever you do to another person, your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your neighbour, your church member, or the stranger, whatever you do to any one of them, you do to me. And your destiny depends not on your knowledge of theology. None of us know much. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Well, which one of us then is safe? None of us. But we're not saved by our theology. We're saved by recognising Jesus in everybody in trouble or in pain. St. Francis of Assisi, a wealthy man, rode out of his home and saw a filthy looking beggar. The beggar opened his arms to him. Francis got off his horse and embraced him. And as he did so, the leper's face changed into the face of Jesus Christ. And Francis began an organisation that exists to this day to help the poor, the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the strangers, the sick, those in prison. Martin of Tours was a Roman soldier, but he was a Christian. And one day he met a man in winter, shivering with cold, and the man begged for help. Well, Martin didn't own much. He was only a soldier. But he took off his coat and he cut it in two, and he wrapped half of it around the thin, shivering beggar. And that night Jesus in heaven appeared before the angels with half a coat on. And the angel said, Lord, where'd you get that old coat? He said, Martin of Tours gave it to me. Never forget it. The way you treat any person is the way you are treating Christ. What a picture of God, that he can see himself in the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the stranger, the prisoner, and the sick. What a picture of God. What I particularly like is that Jesus told us about prayer. If you're a mature Christian, prayer should be to you as natural as breathing. Most of them brief, staccato prayers. Lord, forgive. Lord, help. Lord, guide. Be with me, Lord. Well, it's a great privilege to pray. It's transformed millions of lives. John Newton, who wrote Amazing Grace, was changed by the experience of prayer. John Wesley, a hopeless failure as a missionary in America, when he learnt the gospel and learned to pray. He opened more toll gates than any man in England, preached 40,000 sermons. His brother, Charles, wrote 6,000 hymns, many of them about prayer. I am a nobody. I am a ragamuffin from North Queensland, where no respectable boy went into shoes for the age of 12. When I was 15, I had no father, no money, no books, very little education. But I learned to pray at the age of 15. And I prayed that God might teach me, that my deficiency of education might be made up, that I might be able to get books, that God might condescend to use a nobody somewhere, somehow. Since then I've been in 40 countries. I've given 30,000 lectures or sermons over radio, television, in churches or before groups. I have a library of about 8,000 volumes, and I'm a nobody. Prayer did it, my friends. Prayer did it. I recommend to you Dr. Milton Hook's biography, Desmond Ford. It tells of answers to prayer through 70 years. I recommend that book to you. And so why believe in Jesus Christ? Why decide that he wasn't bad or mad? He was God. Because he gave us such a revelation of God that only God could tell us. And he's taught us how to pray. Dear friend, commit your life and your prayers, your hopes, your fears, and your plans to Jesus. He died for you.